So, hello and welcome. We're back semi-live from SecT, and we have Abe here for the second time. You delivered two talks, one yesterday, a lightning talk, and another one today. Felt like it was lightning as well. You crammed a lot of information in your slot. Very interesting. You were talking about mobile applications and how to exploit them.
Yeah.
What turned you into looking at mobile applications?
Well, actually, at the beginning, it was more like nobody else knew how to do it. Yeah. So I like had a first pen test from a friend, like, hey, I have this Android application, can you help me? I said, sure. But then it was like my first mobile pen test, so I had like to learn from scratch, see all the information available, and learn about this. And then because I had already done this, then another friend asked me like, hey, can you give me a hand in this pen test about mobile? And then I just got into all the mobile pen tests like one after another, because I was the only one who knew how to do it. And everybody else had only knew how to do web. Yeah. And then I could do like web stuff, but also like mobile. So I was like more versatile, or so I always had work. And then it went from there. Like. And then I could see also like the evolution, like at the beginning, it's a little bit like network security, right? Like at the beginning we had Telnet, everything was wide open. In the 80s you could like sneeze on a server and it'll give you a shell, and all this. And with mobile, it was kind of the same, right? At the beginning, as I was saying, the default on any XSS on iOS or Android, you could do like data exfiltration, like read local files, send them to an attacker and so on. And now this is getting tougher. Like the defaults are improving. So now
they are getting better.
Yeah, now both Android and iOS by default reject clear text HTTP. The developer has to manually add an exception and all these things, right? So this was all like wide open at the beginning, and then slowly it has been like improving the defaults, right?
How much challenge do you find in I imagine that there's a lot of different application environments, and that.
Yeah.
So, is it a big challenge, or do you manage everything's a little bit similar, or is there some mobile application framework which requires a lot more effort, or because I think some of your demonstrations, like it's a bit like path traversal, and some of them are SQL injection, and I mean, is there some framework which has put really unusual challenges for you, or?
Not really, but what happens with mobile devices, mobile applications a lot of times is that sometimes just to test the application, first you have like to bypass root detection or jailbreak detection and so on. And sometimes there's applications like from some banks that use like some specialized software for this, and they only give you like this build tool for doing the test, and that gets time consuming. So I would say that tends to be a big problem in mobile, because you don't want to waste too much time bypassing like all these root detection and stuff, because you want to spend the majority of the time testing actual security and not this. So this can be a problem if you have relatively little time for the pen test, and you also have to bypass like all this stuff, all these like hurdles. then it gets tougher, but not because the application is tough, but because of the extra work.
I know one friend of us, he was supposed to test a mobile application, but it was a mobile application which were cooperating with, let's call it an Internet of Things device, which came with the application. And there was so much problems, like just running the physical interaction, like maybe it was faulty hardware, or maybe it was very new software in the application, but obviously the customer must have thought that it worked a lot better when they sent it, but like pen testing mobile applications where you need to like get into the specific system and like get Android, etc. That's hard. And then add more challenges on top of that. That's not nice.
Yeah, but if you have a mobile application connected to some IoT device, most likely it's going to be the IoT device that is the weakest point. Like in general, mobile devices and mobile applications, then the environment is much tougher than a desktop computer. The isolation between apps is much better. Like one application cannot read files from another application by default. This is much more isolated than in a desktop computer. But IoT is like punching a child in the face. It's like it's like the 80s are back. There's like very little. But I think it has to do with the device being cheap. Then you cannot pay a lot for the developers. Also, there's reduced hardware, so you have to write these web applications in C and stuff. And of course, what is cross-site request forgery XSS? They don't know because they are C developers, and you have all this. So,
what is your opinion? Is there any difference between looking at an iOS app or an Android app? Do you have any preference, or is one proving more challenging?
I wouldn't say they are challenging, but typically. In iOS, the platform is more closed, so there's always a lot of tools. For example, stop working that used to work before that were very cool. And then another aspect is when you reverse the application, so when you are not given the source code in iOS, you just have the binary, so it's kind of messier to do kind of code reviews and stuff, whereas in Android, depends a little bit on what framework the application is written in, but in general, if you decompile the APK, in many cases you get the Java back or like close enough to the source code to be able to look for like business logic flaws and other problems, whereas in iOS it's more kind of obscure because you just have the binary and you can still decompile it, but it's not as easy to read it and find vulnerabilities in that.
I have one question, and it's regarding your talk, and I forgot to ask it in the audience. But when you made the phone call a phone number, you said that it casted the number as an integer. How would that work with a zero in the beginning? Would that still work, or would it?
I think it probably would. I'm not entirely sure about the casting, but I think probably it would be fine. It's just this was actually just a dummy application, so it was not a real one. It's just checking if it's a number.
Yeah.
So it was just checking. Okay, if it's a number, I'm going to call it. But
right.
It was that was not like the actual flow. That was just a check before making the call.
Cool.
So.
All right. Well, I thought it was an interesting talk, and you said this was actually a 4-hour workshop.
Yes. Because the thing is, normally we do like a 4-hour workshop, and it's like a slower pace, and we can be a little bit more relaxed and doing the demo and explaining things and so on. But this is why I mentioned it at the beginning and at the end. Like, if anybody wants to go, like severasecurity.com/free, it's all like this workshop as well as the longer workshop version of the Lights and Talk yesterday. And then there's also like a web workshop. So there's like desktop for Electron applications. There's the mobile. Actually, for mobile, there's 2 workshops. One is just the deep links and XSS, and the other is the practical mobile app attacks by example. This is like the 4-hour one. And then there's the Electron, Electron, web applications, and mobile. So
cool.
So how do you think about what you provide for free versus because one option is of course to provide things commercially and not release it, so to speak. So what's the thought process between what you make free?
Is trying to follow the marketing principle of. What's the name of this? Try before you buy, right? So we're giving a taste for free, and then if somebody wants to buy one of our courses, then they can. If not, that's also fine, But but we provide like this. This is like a small sample of what we do in the training, And then if somebody's interested, that is the hope, right?
Cool. Yeah, it's really good, and I think it's also good to provide to the community because we need to be more people involved in this.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
well,
as you said, there's a need for people who can test applications. That's
Thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us again, Abe. And now we'll go out and enjoy the lunch.
Yeah.
Food.
Thank you.
My favorite dish.